Greetings, folks. I am Zazubaar, and this is the August edition of ZGC Monthly Reviews, Episode 7. And joining me today, I have my fellow Arnold Schwarzenegger. He can quote every line from him. He knows his underwear size. Dude, Gorzard7.
Hey, guys.
And filling in for Adam this month because he is fighting an interplanetary army of reptilian mole people, we have Nicola, aka Pyro Wolfie. Say hi, newbie.
Hey, what's up?
So, just to start this off, I don't know when Adam's coming back. He's thinking September, but he's not entirely sure. So we may still have guest reviewers on next month, but we'll see. But otherwise, he said maybe next month, so we might have Adam back next month. But anyway, so off of that. So this is gonna mark kind of a special episode of ZGC Monthly Reviews because, excuse me, this is the beginning of a trilogy of reviews we're going to be doing on the show, where the idea basically is that one person has seen the movie we're going to be reviewing today before they actually sat down to watch it for the review, and the other two people, this was their first time viewing it, just to kind of create an interesting sort of, you have that memory of seeing it in the past, and this is just my objective raw feelings about it. So that's kind of the idea of this, but and that's why I picked the movie I picked. But on top of that, by the way, I guess I'll introduce the movie we're going to be doing. Today on ZGC Monthly Reviews, we are going to be reviewing the very recent Batman Year One animated adaptation that came out in late 2011. I think it was October. And it came out the same day as Arkham City, so I'm sure that was not an accident. And we're doing it today for two reasons. Well, I picked it, of course, because it's a movie I've seen the day it came out. And these guys just watched it for the first time before we sat down to do this. And the reason why I picked it is not just for that, but also for the fact that I am the only one out of the three of us who has read the comic multiple times before, seeing the movie, even for, all those months back. So I thought I had a double way of looking at this in an interesting way, of not just having the memory of seeing it, but also as an experience with that story, because Batman Year One is kind of infamous already, or not infamous, but maybe famous. It depends on how you look at it, but it's notable for the fact that it is nearly a panel by panel, line by line adaptation of Frank Miller's novel. There is like minimal cuts. I mean, it is basically just the novel on screen. So I think that's commendable / kind of a problem, but we'll get to that. I just wanted to say that me being a person who's read the book, I think that's going to create an interesting dichotomy with you guys who have never read the book before, and this was your first exposure to this story. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes, but also the one other thing I wanted to run down is that for those of you out there who may not be familiar with the novel, Frank Miller wrote Batman Year One, and I believe it was the 80s. I'm just not sure on the year. Oh, I wish I would have grabbed my copy before I sat down to do this. It doesn't matter. It was the 80s. I believe it was 80. I think it was.
It was 1987.
It was 1987.
Yeah.
All right. So Gorzard just confirmed that Year One was written in 1987. It was, of course, written by Frank Miller, who's perhaps more famous for writing Batman Dark Knight Returns, which is actually being made into a movie next in the DC line, so I'm very excited for that. But anyway, Year One has kind of been adapted before on screen. For those of you who know the novel and have seen Batman Begins, there are multiple scenes lifted straight from Year One and put in Batman Begins. That version of Gordon is very similar to the Year One version, and it's a very similar story, kind of Batman first starting out. But I'll get back to Batman Begins a little later. So I just wanted to say that if you've seen Batman Begins, you at least know parts of Year One. And it's going to seem kind of familiar to you in ways. A lot of the characters are even from Year One, but they're a little different. But I'll point those out as we go down the plot and everything. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but there's a lot I want to get through before we actually get into the reviewing. But I guess first of all, let's hear from you guys. So you guys are going to be more objective about this than I am. So I guess we'll start with Gorzard, or either one of you can, whoever really wants to say this can go. What was your kind of first initial gut reactions to seeing this thing? So either one of you can take it.
Newbie, you want to go?
Let me just get my recollection together. I actually, for one, I was shocked at how short it was, but it was able to kind of, I don't know how to say it. I think it was very predictable, actually, for one.
Really?
Yeah. I was almost like, when Lieutenant Gordon was being beat up by a bunch of burglars, I was like, okay, this is a typical corrupt police force, and Gordon is obviously going to, try to deface this. He's going to try to rise above it, and that's basically going to be the premise of it. That was right to an extent.
Now, was it predictable because you've seen other versions of Gordon, or was it just predictable as a general plot for a story?
Actually, yeah, it wasn't just what would I say? Probably just because of the background knowledge I have of the characters, like Selena Kyle.
Yeah.
The one thing I didn't know was Gordon cheating on his wife.
Yes, and we shall get to that. By the way, for those of you, since we're recording this before I put this in the video, but it's going to be in there, before the show now, I've decided to put a spoiler tag only because people have been complaining about it. And also, it's a relatively recent film, so I think it's crucial for this. So before this review starts, there's a spoiler tag. So just saying. So guys, should feel free to talk about whatever the hell you want. So you're saying it was predictable because you know Batman lore?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
I was just
No. Please go on. Please go on.
Is it okay to go into the voice acting?
I actually wanted to get to that a little later.
Gotcha.
But what were your reactions to the story itself? Because this is obviously a very famous Batman graphic novel.
Okay.
Did you think that it was what were your thoughts on it just as Batman Year One, the story?
Since I haven't read the comic, I thought it was pretty refreshing, to be honest. Just the whole background of the Dark Knight in general, how, I'm trying to think of different words to describe it. The parents dying, what I loved the most was what caused him to become Batman. I thought that was really awesome.
And that is a very iconic image and one of my favorite moments in the novel and in the movie.
Definitely.
But I'll get to the adaptation after you guys give your spiel. So Nicola, is there anything else you want to say before I throw the reins over to Gorzard?
Just a little note on the introduction of Batman when the Bat came flying in. It was about 15 seconds long, but just the whole gravity of the situation almost made it feel like a minute, to be honest. It was that enthralling.
I also thought the music in that scene was so epic.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Gorzard, I'm going to ask the same question of you. What were your initial objective gut reactions to this story, being someone who hasn't read the novel or seen this movie before?
I guess I'm going to rip off Nicola right here, but what bothered me was the whole thing that it was just 64 minutes long.
Yeah.
I was expecting something longer, at least like 80 minutes, like Superman Doomsday, because I don't think, okay, I never read the graphic novel before, but
It is actually really short it's only 4 issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's relatively short for covering a whole year. But anyway, continue.
Anyways, despite that, I really felt the potential in so much more character development between these characters, and it seemed that they kind of rushed all of that into 1 hour. I'm pretty sure you heard by now that Frank Miller tried to get Year One adapted into a film.
Yes, I'll be talking about that later.
All right, and I just saw the potential of Year One being the canon of a Batman film trilogy, and of course they didn't have time to explain all these things between the characters and whatnot into 1 hour, but they did their best. But what also bothered me is that it was more focused on Jim Gordon than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, the novel's that way too. But anyway, go on.
Well, I thought it was a pretty good film because I saw it today, and I've been meaning to watch it for a whole year, but I've been putting it off. But I'm kind of glad you forced me to watch it because now I kind of see what I want to see in a DC's Batman reboot.
Yeah,
I want
definitely
something like this.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Something that's not quite as realistic as Nolan's Batman.
Right.
So Nicola actually hasn't seen Batman Begins, so I can't ask this question of you, but Gorzard, which version, now that you've seen the movie, you know that a lot of the scenes in Batman Begins are lifted straight from year one. Which version do you prefer?
Probably Begins.
Yeah, and I guys, let me just say it right now, I wasn't a big fan of the year one story even before I sat down and watched the movie. I had read the graphic novel and I liked it, but it wasn't one of my top Batman stories. The thing with the fanboys, you know, of course, they jump all over people who say, "Oh, Batman Begins got stuff from year one, so you automatically have to say year one is better." For me, the thing about Begins is that it does develop the characters more. And I also feel like there's more stuff in it than we had in year one. So that's the thing for me. But, so you do prefer Begins, though?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I'm totally with you. And if Nicola sees Batman Begins at some point,
I probably will too.
Then she'll probably agree. But again, I can't say that without her seeing it. So that's their reactions. Let me just go into my little spiel now. This is me talking about having the movie experience before I was sitting down to review it. And also me being the guy who had read the comic before. This movie did not work for me at all when I first saw it. I'm going to be totally honest, and here's the reason why. I had read the novel about 3 months in advance before the movie came out in preparation for the movie, because it'd been a while since I was familiar with the story. I was a little bit more in tune to what they did in Begins, but so I read the novel, and the thing was that it's a very short novel. I was expecting it to be a lot longer, especially since it's covering a whole year. I mean, Batman Long Halloween also covers a whole year, and it's a hell of a lot longer. And I know, Nicola, you'll agree with me because you've read that. I mean, that's a long-ass novel. This is about... I can't give an exact page count, but it's only barely above 100 pages.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's short. And, I mean, it's covering a whole year. So, the thing with the movie was that the movie didn't really work for me because the only reason I was even kind of invested in it was that I was seeing the scenes from the novel in motion. And that was one of the coolest and best things about it for me the first time watching it, was because I felt like I was just seeing the novel in motion, and that was so cool to me. I mean, it was seeing all these iconic and memorable moments in the comic put in motion and put in beautiful animation. Now, the animation in this film was absolutely gorgeous. And it's awesome, and I like seeing the expansions of all the stuff that Miller and Mazzucchelli did in that novel, and seeing it again in motion, and seeing it frame by frame, and not just, you know, the average comic book panels. So it was cool in that regard, but the movie didn't work for me. Excuse me. Somehow the movie didn't work for me because it was almost too much like the book. Like, it's hard to put into words, but I feel like it was almost boring, because it was just scene by scene the book, and the only thing that was driving it for me was the fact that I was seeing all these scenes in motion. There wasn't really anything else carrying it. There was nothing really about the movie in and of itself that really worked in a way the book didn't. In fact, I think there's a lot of problems that way. The big one for me is the fact that a lot of Miller's lines do not work in spoken word. That opening introduction of Bruce Wayne having that monologue is one of the worst narratives I've ever heard.
Oh, I agree on that one.
But it wasn't even just the voice acting, it was just the fact that it was spoken.
I find that there's way too much internal monologue in that movie.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's in the book too, and I think that they were kind of stuck with it because they wanted to do a close adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. When you read something, you read it differently than when you hear it. And I think that when you hear people monologuing inside their head, it works in a way that it doesn't when it's being spoken out loud. like it seems almost more realistic in a book than it can in spoken word. Like in this movie in particular, but in other movies too, it sounds like it's someone reading a script in their head.
Basically.
I don't know if you guys agree with that, but a lot of the times, for me at least, in monologues that aren't being spoken, it sounds like someone's reading a script inside this guy's head, and it just, especially in this movie. There are points with both Batman and Gordon where they have monologues that inside their heads that just they don't sound good being spoken. That opening thing with Bruce Wayne, and also the it's less of a problem with Gordon, but the scene where oh man, where was it? Well, there's one scene where they actually have a line in actual dialogue in spoken word that wasn't in the book, and that's when Gordon says the line, "Whoever called you masculine must have been blind, deaf, and dead."
Really?
That wasn't spoken dialogue in the book. That was a narrative box. It just sounds so clunky in spoken word and dialogue.
It does. That actually did stick out to me because I remember that exact fucking part.
It's a great line, but it just doesn't work being spoken out loud. And there's a lot of points to that, especially with Batman. But I'll get to the chunk of the problem a little later. But ultimately, I just think that this book was meant to be a book and not really a movie. In fact, if you read Frank Miller's script for his live-action adaptation of his work, it's really not that similar to the book.
Really?
Yeah, he took liberties with the story himself and kind of altered it a little bit. But I ultimately think that's not necessarily the movie's fault, in that I think that the production team was scared. I think that they were really nervous about changing Frank Miller dialogue when Frank Miller is one of the most famous and heralded graphic novelists out there. And also because Miller's dialogue is so freaking clever that you don't want to change it. But I think that they were just scared of the fanboy reaction, like, oh my god, you changed my favorite line in graphic novel history. And I think that they were scared of that reaction, and they ultimately paid the price for the fact that things sound really clunky in spoken word.
Right. One of my problems with the film was the dialogue. I know this shouldn't be a problem because, of course, it's an animated film based off a comic book or graphic novel in this case, but there's some dialogue that just seems too tacky for something that's trying to go a little bit dark and edgy, especially for Batman. I felt that if they could have made some of the dialogue stronger, then we would have had something. But yeah, there's some dialogue that works for a graphic novel or a comic book, and if you put that on screen, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this, again, I just think it was because the production team was scared. I mean, Year One is on the top 100 graphic novels of all time, and I think IGN did it, and they were just like, I think that they just ultimately didn't want to fuck with it. So it ultimately ended up being, they sacrificed, the workings of film dialogue for, I hate to put it this way, but just pandering to fans. Because I think the film was ultimately extremely commendable for how close it sticks to the novel. As I said earlier, it is panel by panel, nearly line for line. They don't rearrange anything, they don't really change anything, they just cut little bits out. Otherwise, it is just a book on screen. It's nearly an audiobook with moving images.
Wow.
They do cut certain lines out. The one that stuck out to me and the one I hate, because I think it's really clever in the book, it's actually a racist line that's actually intended to be racist, because look, I get it. We don't have a lot of smoking in movies these days anymore. I mean, it's just because, cigarettes are such like a thing of we don't want to advertise it to kids. And the thing in Year One is that they're not condoning it. They're not saying that it's smoking is one of the things about them that's cool. It's just that it's part of their character. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like the smoking was cut out just for the fact of, kids are going to see this movie in some fashion, so we don't want to advertise it to them. But I'm just like, yeah, you just, I think it was pointless, because it's not condoned in the book at all. It's just there to be part of the characters. I think it's a major misstep for them to cut it out. But otherwise, I have to ultimately commend them for doing such a complete job of adapting Year One. It's just a nearly complete, nearly flawless adaptation. But that doesn't make it a good movie. It just makes it a good adaptation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost like Watchmen in a way, except without any twists. You know? Yeah,
but that's one of the things I like about the Watchmen movie is that when it knows that it can't do it directly from the book, it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And it ultimately knew that it had to be paced like a movie in order to work. Year One, the pacing isn't bad, but you can tell it was originally intended to be a book.
Definitely.
And I feel like it's really strangely paced for a movie, especially with the fact that you'll get 2-minute segments from one date, and then it'll jump like 3 months later.
Right? I couldn't follow that at some points.
Yeah, and it does that in the book too, but in the book it's not as clunky because you can go back
and see when it was, yeah.
Excuse me, I have a cold. It's very difficult for me to talk. And I feel like it's weirdly paced that way. And as you two seeing it for the first time, did that throw you off at all? I know, Nicola, it did to you. Gorzo, did that throw you off at all?
Yes, it did. I just, we're probably going to talk about this later, but I just want to bring up, just briefly, the whole Catwoman thing. She doesn't get too much screen time here. It's like, she's there for like a minute, and then you cut to the next month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too.
And of course, that's the way the book is, so, I mean, that's why it's like that. But again, it doesn't work in movie pacing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, it seems so clunky, and the fact of the matter is that you're gonna get people who don't read comics to watch these things. I know so many Batman fans who I consider Batman fans who don't really read comics. And they watch all the animated stuff, they watch all the live action stuff, and they know a lot about Batman, but just when you, excuse me again, choking on my own words, when you do something like this, it's really going to throw them off. I think that, I say this with knowing that the hardcore fanboys of Frank Miller's work are gonna nail me to the wall for this. I do think that ultimately you have to sacrifice word-for-word adaptation for pacing and for working it on the big screen. That's all, or just on film. I think that you need to do that because otherwise, what's the point of putting it in a movie? You know what I mean? Why not just go read the book?
And I don't mind adding some events that may go a little astray just to fill in for time. You know, just for the span's sake.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. I mean, I'm not saying you can't represent the book and nearly do an adaptation. I just think that you need to compromise on some things to make it work on the screen. And I think surprisingly, it's not terrible, but it's not strong. This works in a movie. I ultimately felt like the reason it worked for me, and please disagree with me if you want, because you guys haven't read the book. I feel like the movie worked for me because I knew the book. And I knew that certain things were the way they were because they were in the book, and I knew them from the book, and they worked in the book, so they work in the movie. You know what I mean?
I can't say I hated the movie, but since I haven't read the book, it hasn't been as impressionable. You know?
Yeah. But was the way it was paced and the way it was told, you know, did it work for you or did it not work for you? Like, did you ultimately find yourself following the movie and appreciating the movie as a standalone piece, or did you feel like, okay, now I need to read the book because I don't really get this?
I wasn't confused at all. I could just tell right from the beginning when there was about 10 minutes of internal monologue. I was like, okay, they're not piecemealing the comic. They're taking it and basically putting it into motion.
Gorzor, what do you think about that?
I honestly didn't see it as an adaptation at first because I forgot that it was adapted from Year One because I just, delved myself into this world of a corrupted Gotham, and it works for this continuity because I'm used to the Christopher Nolan Batman films, and when I saw Batman Begins, I really didn't get a sense of corruption engulfing the city. You see bits and pieces like Cillian Murphy as Jonathan Crane moving the Romans people to Arkham Asylum and whatnot. In Batman Year One, you really get that sense of corruption, and you see that within the cops, and because of that.
Oh no, yeah, the corruption is definitely more pronounced in this. I mean, Batman really feels necessary. I mean, like, this city has just gone to shit.
Right. And what was your question again? Because I forgot.
Oh, my question was really just like, did you feel like that you needed to read the book to appreciate this movie?
Yes, I did, because I felt that there were some things missing in this movie that I thought maybe the graphic novel explains. For example, Catwoman's why Catwoman is there, because I felt like she was a pointless character. This movie could do well without Selena Kyle.
And here's the thing, dude, it's not.
Damn.
This literally is the book on film.
Wow.
I asked that question because I feel like I liked the movie the way I did because I thought it was cool to see these iconic scenes I know in motion. So, I mean, that ultimately is a criticism of the book itself, and I'm glad you brought it up because now we're going to get into the plot itself. So I'd like you to continue on with that criticism. But really the thing for me was I really felt like, oh, good thing I read the book because now I appreciate this movie more. Like, I appreciated the fact that it was just cool to see all these scenes in motion. So, but now let's go into the plot. So, Gorza, I'm going to let you continue with that critique. So, are there any other plot elements that you feel like weren't explained enough and you didn't, and ultimately led to you not feeling connected with them because they weren't explained? Besides Catwoman.
The so-called relationship between Jim Gordon and what's her name, Sarah Essence. Yeah. There is no build-up onto the affair. It just randomly happens. I want to know how it came to be.
Oh, sorry. It was just that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it was just that one moment, and I guess that's what they used to substitute it. You know, that one moment when she held his hand. That's when I was like, okay, there's going to be an affair going on. You know? Yeah.
And I'm going to say this. I feel like that's just because, again, it's movie pacing. Yeah. The book, it does feel a little more pronounced, and oh god, it's weird. I might be wrong in this, and this might just be the fact that it's book pacing versus movie pacing, but it does feel like it's longer in the book than it is in the movie. But I just feel like that's because it takes longer for someone to read a page than it is to listen to and watch it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think things happen faster in a movie than they do in a book. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel like the affair feels more well-paced in the novel. But in the movie, it happens so quickly, and you don't really feel the impact of it once it's over.
Definitely.
And I might be wrong on this, but I feel like there's stuff missing about Barbara's reaction to all this. You know, Jim's wife.
Oh my god. But, yeah, right? Okay, well, is it like that in the book where you just see Bruce Wayne, like, just talking about the fact that the car was just there?
No, yeah, it's in the book. Though that scene where he talks to the hooker isn't.
Really?
Yeah, it's not in the book. You know what? You guys go for a second. Continue on with that. I'm gonna go grab the book.
Okay.
The hooker.
Yeah. Wait. Is it the hooker?
The girl who he says she doesn't speak any language I know, so I don't know her name.
Really? Wow.
That's in the book, but I'm not sure. I'm not remembering if that scene where he talks to her afterwards is in the book. I'm not remembering it.
Oh, when she's like, "Oh, you guys are weird."
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Nope, it's not in the book.
Wow. Oh, I'm getting an echo.
Might be me again. Hold on.
Is it okay now? I think I'm hearing it from Billy's end. I don't know. Because whenever I speak, it's going,
yeah. No, yeah, I hear you. Is it still going now?
No, it's good now. Sorry.
Okay, I moved my mic. So, no, that scene is not in the book, so they added something. The scene where he talks to Alfred about them still being there is, but it's nothing, there's nothing beyond that. It's just, him and Alfred talking. There's no hooker. So weird.
Definitely.
Why the hell did I bring that up now? I forgot. Anyway.
Because it was so abrupt, basically. The whole affair, the fact that Barbara never really reacted to it.
Yeah.
But that's in the book anyway.
And I mean, Jim brings up guidance counseling. Right.
But Barbara's just there. She's a really one-dimensional character if you think about it, or two-dimensional. It's just like, I don't know.
She shows concern for Jim, and that's it.
Basically, she's just the typical, I don't want to say nurturing wife, but just a caring person. That's about all you get from her.
And yeah, it's the same way in the book.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like the affair itself has more weight. Like, I feel bad for Sarah, and I feel bad for Jim. I don't feel anything for Barbara.
Right, except if it wasn't for the fact that she was pregnant.
Yeah, and I also like that, this is just me, you know, I say this reading the book, I love the line where Essen says, if your wife wasn't pregnant, would you leave her?
Yeah, I like that line too, because it really did strike a moment of question in Jim. You can definitely tell that.
Yeah, and I love this version of Jim Gordon.
Really?
Yeah.
I did too, actually.
Damn cold. Yeah, I really like this version of Jim Gordon. I am so sorry. Anyway, after that awkward moment, so yeah, I really like this version of Jim Gordon. I like how real he is. He's a guy with real problems and with real issues, you know?
Yeah, he's just not like one of those, adamant about saving everything, all good going guy.
The guy has an affair, and he's technically our protagonist.
Yeah, right?
Yet we feel sympathy for him for that reason.
You know what, though? This might be pushing it a little far, but they should really call it Commissioner Gordon Year One.
I've said that before. And people defend it. I still think it's a problem. And this is, again, it's a problem with the book too, but I'm glad you brought it up since you guys haven't read the book. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I do ultimately wish the thing was longer just so we can have a little bit more of Batman becoming Batman.
Yeah.
We don't get much of it at all. I mean, once he sees that bat, he's Batman.
You know what? It was almost as if Batman was interfering with Gordon's story, Commissioner Gordon's story. I was like,
right? And I guess that was Frank Miller's point. I guess. And I feel like Bruce Wayne is developed maybe a little bit, but he's not really a character. He's almost like he's almost like a force of nature.
Right.
That propels Gordon into becoming what he is at the end. He's basically just there to change Gotham. And he's not really a character, in my opinion. I'm gonna get so much shit from fanboys for saying that. I know it, so I'm prepared for it.
But I'm here to defend you, and I'm sure I'm gonna get shit from it too. But I don't want to say robotic, like he was robotic in nature, but I don't want to say unpredictable either. But it's almost like, okay, he's going to be heroic, and Jim Gordon's just going to be more, I don't want to say complex. He's going to be deeper than Batman. Batman's just going to be Batman. He's going to be the guy that saves everything without a trace, you know?
Yeah. And I do like seeing Batman get hurt. It makes it feel gritty and more real, but I don't feel like we're in his head.
Did anyone else feel like it was too, they were too close at finding Batman and who his real identity was?
No, I thought that was extremely clever.
Really?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I thought Sarah's interpretation was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it was awesome that it came up, but I thought the way Bruce handled it was brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
I really like that about it, because it kind of brings up, hey, that's a problem with Batman comics, is that Bruce Wayne is the richest man in Gotham and has the tragic backstory to suit. Why don't we think he's Batman? So I like that they put two and two together and Bruce finds a way to get out of it.
What I like about Bruce Wayne in this is that the way he becomes Batman. I'm probably going to get hated for this, but the whole thing about the bat flying through the window and just, you know, standing on the bust of his father's statue head, it seems so convenient to me.
I disagree. Only because I'm a very poetic person. I'll oftentimes in my writing sacrifice realism for poetry, just like for very poetic, profound things. And I ultimately, if I was writing it, would do that too. I thought it was just a very poetic and iconic image that it didn't bother me at all. But no, definitely continue.
Probably on the page of the comic books or graphic novel. I don't know why I keep saying comic book, but it might work as poetic literature, but on the screen it's not very there's no substance to it too much. It just seemed that he's asking for his dead father to give him a sign. Boom, the bat flies in, I'm Batman.
Oh, I agree with you that the change into the bat suit's too abrupt.
Right. Like in some continuities, you have Bruce Wayne already establishing himself as Batman before he comes back to Gotham City. Like he uses the symbol of a bat at a young age.
Yeah, and dude, I'm totally with you. I think it is a little convenient, but it's such an iconic image that I think it ultimately works for me. But again, that's just the comic book geek who knows every little panel from the story saying that. So take that with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
I just felt that there could have been some build-up to him becoming Batman. I mean, even in the Joe Schumacher version, Batman Forever, you discover why he adopted a bat motif for, Batman.
Yeah, oh true, and they also do a very similar thing in the Nolan films, in that he had that fear from childhood. But I ultimately think it works. And it doesn't bother me too much, but I can definitely see where you have that complaint, because the bat is such an iconic part of Bruce's psyche that it seems like something that should be there from childhood.
Right. It's the same, going back to your previous argument about pacing in comic books and in movies. It just doesn't fit in this movie. It's rushed too much. It's so convenient. It happens in 1 minute, and then we jump into Batman in the next scene.
I'm with you.
It works on a graphic novel. I could see it because I saw the page on Google Images earlier, and it works. It looks like an iconic image, but I don't believe that in this movie they kind of captured that iconic spirit from the graphic novel, or at least they were trying too hard.
Oh, I'm with you. I can see that too. It almost feels like it's too pronounced. I can see that.
Oh, sorry. I actually really like that part. That I haven't seen the panel myself, but I found that part of the movie actually very, I don't know, symbolic.
I love it too, but I can see where Gorzard's coming from.
So can I.
That it is a little bit too. It's almost too in your face, and I hate saying that because I love the scene. I think it's beautifully animated. I think it's beautifully scored, and I think the looks on Bruce's face are just so well animated. Go on.
I do agree with you on all that stuff. I just felt that it could have had more weight and more substance to it than just be rushed. I mean, it has all these great things, all these great animations and dialogue and not dialogue, sound effects and music. Now the problem is, what are you going to do with it? You have all the equipment, just what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I do feel like I like the Begins thing better, where it seems more deeply implemented into his psyche.
Right.
Don't you kind of wish, though, that they had a build-up scene of him actually turning into the Batman, of him gathering everything from the suit?
I'm with you, and that's my complaint with both the book and the movie, is that we're not enough with Batman. We're always with Gordon. And Gordon's story is fascinating and very gripping, but the book is called Batman Year One.
Exactly.
I'd like to see the title character in his first year of operations, and we don't truly. The big thing that we get I have one really strong good thing to say about the movie, in that it doesn't do something right from the book, and it does it in a good way. There is one scene where the filmmakers do compromise and say, listen, this is going to be really awkward on screen, we gotta change it. And that's the scene where we first see Batman. And there's a part where he drops down on some thugs and there's no dialogue. And basically one of the thugs falls over. In the book, Batman has this strange look on his face, and in narration says, I shall never take a life. You know, that's that classic Batman idea of I don't kill and I don't use guns. In the book, it's a great moment, because again, everything's a small moment that comes together into a full story. With a movie, it's a moving series of images. Everything has to flow cohesively. You know, not like a comic book where in a comic book, every panel is almost like its own miniature thing. Like its own miniature piece of art. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they ultimately come together to tell a story, but I feel like in a movie it's almost more important. So, if you would have had that narration, it would have seemed really awkward. So they just show it. They just show Batman catch that guy and fight off the other two guys at the same time. He doesn't have any line like, I shall never take a life or anything. You know what I mean?
Because that would have been too awkward.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest things. That's one of the greatest scenes in the movie, and I wish the whole movie was like that. Show, don't tell.
Right?
I mean, isn't that one of the big things with film, is that the whole added thing of film is that we see it?
Right.
So, go on.
Sorry. One of the things that I thought, and I'm going back to the internal monologue, if they cut a few parts out, it might have actually held some suspense or some, it wouldn't be as predictable, I felt. I felt that some of the monologue was actually kind of unneeded.
Yeah. I think monologue works great when it's describing how a character feels and their rash, impulsive thoughts.
Right.
And just kind of we get a glimpse of how they look at the world. I don't think it works well when they're telling us what they're about to do.
Yeah.
I think it's awkward that way. And I think it's even worse in a movie than it is in a graphic novel. I was gonna say something and completely forgot. Oh, I just want to go back to what Gorzard said, that I do wish that the film did show more of Batman becoming Batman. And it wasn't just like, oh, I want to become a bat, I'm going to do it with no problems.
Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, you could do that with the audience, but it's like expecting the audience to believe that's what drives him to become Batman, because a bat flew onto his father's statue's face, you know?
Yeah. So, is there anything else that, any other big critiques or, praises you guys like to say just looking at this as a movie?
For one, I think the animation is great, but we already covered that.
No, let's go more in depth into that. I think the animation is absolutely gorgeous.
Right? I'm probably the only one that thought this, but I almost thought it was anime-like.
A little bit, and I thought that ultimately helped. I thought that ultimately worked.
Yeah.
Mazzucchelli's art, that's the artist for the novel, is very hard to translate to screen because it's so goddamn stylized. The coloring is, unless you're doing a psychedelic drug piece, it's hard to do on screen. He has this very creative and dark and very stylistic way of coloring, and if you're trying to show a realistic world, I don't think it'd work great. And his detailing is also very hard to pull off on screen, but that was one of the things I thought that worked brilliantly. I like the way I like the character design for this version of Batman. I like it a lot. I think it's very simple, and I think it's very simple, and I think that works to its advantage, because this is Batman. You know, This is his first bat suit. It looks simple and it looks gritty.
I love its faithfulness, and I don't think that they were trying to hold this to that series, but it was so much like the animated series that I couldn't help but show appreciation for it.
Yeah, well, also the fact that it looked like the book on screen with the batsuit. Yeah, I think that the animated series Batman is bulkier.
Yeah.
And his suit is blue and gray instead of black and gray.
It's just the How do I describe it?
Well, it was done by the same animation team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bruce Timm produced this.
Oh, cool.
And so I think Paul Dini was an executive producer too, and a head writer. So, not that this film needed much writing, if you know what I mean.
Right? More like copy and paster, like if that was a job title.
Right? I totally agree. Again, not that that's a problem, but you know, I don't think this movie really needed a script.
Definitely.
So what else do I want to cover? Oh, let's talk about the voice acting. It ranges from awesome to terrible.
You think so? I really had no problem with the voice.
The voice for Batman is one of the worst casting choices I've ever seen I've ever seen.
I was expecting the same guy who did the voice for Batman from the Red Hood, but given that this is year one and this is like the younger Batman, I did kind of expect, well, not expect, I did kind of anticipate a much more younger voice for Bruce Wayne and Batman. Because when you look at the voice for, what's the name of the actor who does the voice for Batman in Red Hood?
That's Bruce Greenwood.
Right. That's a much more older Batman. So
yeah,
that's my complaint, though, because you know, of course, whoever has any complaint that Batman's voice sounds too young in year one, it's because, you know, of course, this is year one. This is like the beginning of Batman.
That wasn't really it for me. The thing that ruined it for me was the fact that it wasn't that he sounded too young. Well, I think he did sound too young. This Bruce Wayne is, I think he's 20 years old. And
around there.
Huh?
Around there.
No, I think it's exact because in all continuity, Bruce's parents died when he was 8, and he's in the movie. He says 12 years and the wound is still fresh.
Oh.
So he's definitely 20. I get it. He's young, but still, it sounds like he's 17. His Batman voice, when he's actually speaking like Batman, is atrocious.
Oh, just a quick question, if anyone knows this. Is the voice actor British?
Ben McKenzie?
Yeah, he...
No.
I almost feel like there's a hint of British that breaks in abruptly at points, and I'm like...
When he's playing Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
That's just because he was trying to put on a suave accent.
Oh.
Wait, but you might be right. I don't know anything about this guy, so let me look it up.
Ben McKenzie?
No, he was born in Texas.
Oh, wow. I'm completely off. Okay, then.
Anyway, so back to the movie. I don't like the voice for Batman. I never will. I think it's a miscast. I'd like to see... This is impossible, but I think this is someone they should have looked for. A guy who could pull off a great Kevin Conroy Batman impression from when he was 20.
Oh.
I think that this character design and the way this Bruce Wayne looks a lot like the animated series Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the voice that was always in my head when I listened to this, was I imagined a much younger Kevin Conroy. And this is weird, and I had a talk with Nicola about this a long time ago, in that when I read Batman comics, I don't hear Kevin Conroy's voice. I hear that stereotypical, I'm Batman kind of voice.
I hear the animated series Batman. I really do.
Yeah, I can see that. But I almost come up with my own voice for Batman in my head. Like, it's not as laughable as or as laughable as it can be for when people parody the Christian Bale Batman. But it's like that growly thing. I mean, Kevin Conroy doesn't have a growl. He's just very deep. But this was one of the only times where I've read a Batman graphic novel, and I was like, that's a young Kevin Conroy right there.
Right.
That's the version of Batman I hear in my mind. And I think they should have found someone who sounds young but weathered, like they've been through a lot of crap. I didn't get that with this Batman. I feel like his voice sounded too innocent.
Yeah. As if he never really experienced anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who traveled the world for years and learned martial arts and all these crazy things, practiced to be an assassin, all this crap. He should have somewhat of a weathered, not growly, but, you know, kind of tired voice.
Definitely.
You mean like the voice of a shattered man?
Yeah, well, not even... Well, yeah, definitely, but a shattered young man. A man who still has his life ahead of him, but he's seen a lot of crap. And I feel like that this guy just didn't have that at all.
Like, almost like... I found that the voice acting, and I agree with you, because that's what I thought. I was like, wow, this guy sounds fucking sheltered as hell.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when it comes to the rich, snobby guy, it was spot on.
Yeah.
As soon as he became Batman, I'm like, this is not doing it.
Yeah. Especially that scene, and I love the way it's animated, and I almost like it better in the movie than it is in the book, when he blows up through the wall of all those corrupt politicians having dinner, and he scares the shit out of them. Love it, but when he starts speaking, it's ruined.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I thought it was an effective scene, but once he started talking, it just broke the illusion of this intimidating and scary creature that's embedded in their minds. Because up to this point, they think that Batman is a monster.
Yeah, they don't think he's a guy. And that scene almost supported that that idea, because he's just a silhouette.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Gorzar, continue.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm so sorry, dude. I shouldn't have interrupted you. I feel bad. No, it's my fault. I apologize. I have other stuff written down, but okay. No, I want to go on with the voice acting. Gordon was awesome.
Yeah, right. You know what's funny? I felt that Gordon's voice would be better as Batman. Oh, I'm the only one that feels this way.
I didn't think of that. I'd have to think about that. I didn't personally have that, but I guess I can see where you're coming from. But he was perfect for this version of Gordon. He sounds like a really weathered guy who's seen a lot of crap. And I know I said that with Bruce Wayne, but it works in a different way for Gordon, who's trying to do the right thing but can't.
Right.
And it works so well.
I think I only thought of Gordon's voice as Batman was because when I was watching the movie itself, it was buffering for about 5 fucking minutes, so I was like, screw this, I'll watch Mad Love. And listening to Kevin Conroy, I was like, shit, that's almost like Gordon's voice. That would be awesome for Batman.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, dude, I want a young Kevin Conroy voicing this Batman.
I know.
I want to go back in time when Kevin Conroy was literally 20 years old. Bring him back to the present, have him record the script, kick his ass back to the past, film that movie, and then take Kevin Conroy from the present and have him shoot Dark Knight Returns. Anyway, Kevin Conroy is awesome, just saying.
This is now a review of Kevin Conroy.
No, this isn't a review of Kevin Conroy. This is just an ass-kissing of Kevin Conroy, because he's fucking awesome. Anyway, so now that we're off that, yeah, this voice for Batman didn't work. The thing about Gordon, though, was that it was just so good, so spot on. When he had those internal monologues, it worked in a way that the ones for Batman didn't.
Yeah.
And Batman's are well written, they're just not well spoken. I don't know about you guys, but when he had that first internal monologue in the first couple minutes of the movie, it literally sounded like the voice actor was reading from a script.
Oh my god, right? I was like, okay, is he looking at a book?
Yeah, right? Is he reading the Bible?
I don't know, I was expecting him to say quoted from blah blah blah, like, in that sense, I don't know.
Especially the part where he's just like, from up here, it almost looks like an achievement. From up here, you cannot see the enemy. I'm like, that is terrible voice acting. Because it's so well written, but it doesn't work with that voice actor.
It's like that voice actor is just, he's like, oh shit, no one can actually see me, you know,
So who fucking cares?
I honestly had no problem with it. It was just that thing. I mean, to me, it ends when they're acting. You see them, you know, acting physically, but voice acting is really. I just don't care. It's just voice acting to me. So I kind of thought that the whatever you guys are talking about the problems with the it sounds like they're reading off a script or something. I do kind of agree with it, because it did sound at times like, well, to me, that it sounded like they were reading straight off from the script and not giving any emotionality to their lines. But I just didn't care. I just wanted to see the story.
Didn't bother me with Gordon at points. It always bothered me with Batman. It may just be because I don't like the voice, but I wanted to strangle that guy and say, show some emotion!
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's even more important with the fact that we don't get a lot of Batman scenes in this. I feel like we should be able to get inside his head just from his emotions when he's saying a line.
I know. I felt that was basically my main gripe. It was like, where's Batman? What happened to him?
Yeah, I'm with you, totally. Also, I love how the last scene with Batman takes place 20 minutes before the movie's over.
Right.
Because you don't see him for those last 20 minutes. It's Bruce Wayne in a biker outfit.
Oh, did anyone else find that part predictable too? When Barbara was about to shoot it, it was like a...
Well, there's a scene in The Dark Knight that's based on it.
Really?
Yeah, where you know that scene where Bruce is going to the parade for Commissioner Loeb's death, and he has biker gear on?
Yeah.
Because, and also the scene where he takes the Lamborghini out.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Alfred's just like, should I prepare the bat pod, sir? And Bruce is just like, during the day, Alfred, not very subtle. There's a very similar scene in this, where Alfred's just like, should I lay out your tights, sir? And then Bruce is just like, never during the day, Alfred. I'm like, that sounds so detached. I don't like this version of Bruce Wayne.
I know.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway. And it's like, he almost sounds like he's scolding Alfred.
Yeah, like as if he's... I don't know. I felt like Alfred was treated like a kid that was... I don't know. That
No,
was,
bad Alfred! Sorry, sir. No. I like the voice for Alfred. I just don't like his writing.
Yeah.
He's a typical butler in this.
Definitely.
And listen, Frank Miller, I love you, but it's the same way in fucking Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller needs to work on his writing of Alfred.
Yeah, he's I don't know. I just feel that he's treated...
Dude, talk to Grant Morrison, man. He will help you out.
Oh, man, we're gonna get so much shit from Frank Miller fans.
Oh, I don't give a shit, because I love Frank Miller, it's just that he can't write Alfred. Anyway. Anything else you guys want to say about the voice acting? Oh, I have one last thing to say about the voice acting before I let you two take the reins. They had, like, the same guy voice all the background cops.
Right? Oh my god, okay.
It was the guy who talked like this.
That was like 5 different people.
Have you guys seen Wolverine and the X-Men?
No.
The cartoon on Nickelodeon? No, damn it. The guy who voices Wolverine does a lot of background voices for games and movies, and he does like 5 voices in this movie. He does he does that news broadcaster in the beginning. He does a bunch of cops. He does a couple of thugs. It's so noticeable because he has a very distinctive voice.
That's funny.
He's such a Wolverine voice. I'm like, why is Wolverine a newscaster? Why is Wolverine a SWAT guy? Anyway. I like the voice for Selena Kyle.
Is she black? I'm sorry, was she black?
No!
I could have sworn, I thought she was black.
I thought she was a man.
Oh my god, I thought she was a black man at some points. I brought my boyfriend over and I was like, does Selena Kyle look black to you? And he's like, I guess they changed her. And I was like, okay, I guess she's black.
No, she's not. Well, Halle Berry. No, but she's not black. She's a white woman, not a black man.
No one else thought that she looked black almost? I mean, I do agree with the fact
But
that
I don't like the fact that she's a complete slut.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That bothered me. I like Catwoman's prostitution background when it's developed properly, like the way it is in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, definitely.
And also the way it is in the current Batman continuity. I think it's very well done in the regular DCU. This is by the way, this is technically not DCU continuity.
Okay.
A little bit. What was I saying? I don't know. About this, but I mean, it is kind of, but they just take what they want and then they leave out the stuff they want to leave out. It's very touch and go with year one.
Okay.
So, just wanted to establish that, and then, I think they've recently retconned Selena Kyle being a prostitute and said that she was undercover as a prostitute.
Wait,
And,
what was the importance of that 12-year-old, other than the fact that she was entirely too young for prostitution?
well, that was the point. That just shows how corrupt Gotham is. I really don't have a problem with Selena Kyle in this movie, except for the fact that she is ultimately pointless.
Yeah, you know, she's like, oh, I want to be my own separate being, and I'm like, well, if you want to be...
She comes off as a little crazy to me when she says that.
Yeah, and
Like, what are you, the fucking Joker?
What's up?
I'm like, what are you, the fucking Joker?
I know. I'm like, no shit, you're gonna look like an accomplice, because you're doing the same shit that he is.
Yeah.
To an extent. It's like, come on.
I totally agree. And I don't like the way that she's written. She's written much better in Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anyway, enough about that. As we're getting that movie in a couple months. Yay. It looks so good. The voice for Batman is fucking epic. It's not Kevin Conroy.
Damn it.
But even though it should be, because he's old enough now. But it's still good. Anyway, so I have other stuff I wanted to get to, so we should probably get to that. If I could find my notes, that might be helpful. We've actually covered everything on my list.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys would like to bring up?
Oh god. The suit was great. I like the suit. Oh, Catwoman's suit I kind of had a little peeve with.
Why the fuck did she have a tail?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, I'm looking at the novel. Okay, she has one in the novel too, but I don't like Catwoman with a
A tail.
yeah, I don't like Catwoman with a tail. It just doesn't work for me.
I just don't like Catwoman in general in Batman Year One. She has no purpose and serves no point to the story whatsoever.
Read Long Halloween.
Oh, is Year One in the same continuity as Long Halloween?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
You will appreciate Catwoman much more when you much more. Excuse me, I just said much more. Appropriate for her, but anyway, you'll appreciate her a lot more in Long Halloween, and it's the same characterization. Anyway, so I liked her voice. I liked her costume, except for the tail. I liked how it looked very makeshift.
Wait, didn't she explain that she bought it?
Yeah, but you can tell that it was kind of... She bought a bunch of pieces and put it together herself.
Where the fuck did she get the claws for that? That's what I'm wondering. Like,
She probably made them.
oh, okay.
She probably put, like, I don't know, like sharp metal under the claws. I don't know. Why are you asking me? God. Anyway. I like the music.
Oh man, I didn't even like think about the music.
It's in the background a lot, and you can't really like it. It's not very distinct, but I think it works for this material. I love the closing track because this takes place in the 80s, and it's such an 80s like theme, and it still works for Batman. I also really like, again, I love the soundtrack where the bat crashes through the window. That's really it, though.
Me too.
I also like the misuse of music in the scene where the SWAT team is looking for Batman in that destroyed, in that condemned building. I think it's good that they don't have music there.
Did any of you notice, at times, it felt that the soundtrack sounded a little bit like Hans Zimmer's Batman?
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I agree. I think that's on purpose, though.
What was it made? 2011. So was that around the time of Batman Begins?
2011. Batman Begins came out in 2005.
Oh, Jesus.
Nicola just had a major brain fart moment.
Yeah, what the hell am I thinking? I'm sorry.
Because, I mean, Dark Knight's a sequel. It came out in 2008, so...
Okay, so... Just forget everything I've said.
Forget everything Nicola has said in this entire review. No. I'll just cut all your shit out now. Anyway, so that's about all I have to say about year one until I go to my score. So anything else you guys want to bring up before we go to scores?
No. I think yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go on to scores now. We go in our typical order of backwards to top. So, Nicola, why don't you start us off, then we'll go to Gorzard, and then we'll go to me. So, Nicola, your score and recommendation for Batman Year 1.
3 out of 5.
Okay. So, Gorzard, your score and recommendation.
I'll give it a... I'll give it a 2.5 out of 4, mainly because it's 64 minutes long. If they made it like at least 80 minutes long, then I would have given it like a solid 3 stars. But because it's too short and too rushed, I'm just gonna give it a 2.5 star.
I'm not a big fan of the Batman Year 1 story anyway, and this movie it works, but just for the fact of seeing these scenes iconically play out on screen. I think the ambiance is great. I think the atmosphere is great. I think the music really works. And I think the animation is beautiful. And I think the voice cast is touch and go. So I'm going to give this movie a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's worth checking out if you're into the novel. I think it's cool to see this stuff play out on screen. And although I do warn you that if you're a major purist of Year 1, then you're going to miss the lines that are cut out and the scenes that are reworked. But I do definitely recommend to see some of these scenes in animation. And one thing I forgot to mention in the actual review is that the action is absolutely fantastic. It's very dynamic for animation, and because I think sometimes animation can get very, very kind of cliched with its action. I don't have that problem with this thing. I think it's a very the action is really, really well put together, and you feel the impact of a lot of things. So I'll say that about it. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. If you like the novel, check this out for that. And if you want to see this story and you don't want to read the novel, I say just watch it to get that insight, but I think you're going to be confused and maybe not appreciate stuff that you would have if you've read the book. So 3.5 out of 5 for me. So that's Batman Year 1. That was awesome. Sorry, it's very late at night. So now we're going to move on to Lost Found, but never filmed.
Alright.
That sound effect worked so good for that transition. It was like... Anyway, so, I don't want to go first.
I want to go first.
Gorzard, you want to go first?
Yes, because mine's appropriate.
Go for it, bro.
Okay, cool.
Alright, what I bring you is another product from Frank Miller. The unproduced original script of RoboCop 2. If you're a huge Frank Miller fan, then you probably know that he was involved in the development of RoboCop 2 back in the 80s. They hired him to write a first draft for RoboCop, and they gave him complete freedom on what direction he wanted to take the sequel. Unfortunately for him, the script he wrote was deemed unfilmable. It would have costed $1 million to get his vision up off the ground, because I haven't read the script yet, but I've seen the graphic novel, and I'm about to get to that. But they had to get several writers in to rewrite Frank Miller's original draft into something that's budget-friendly and it could be filmable. The result was the final RoboCop 2, which eventually got made and released, and it's far different from Frank Miller's intended vision. But, you know, the script survives out there, and some comic book publishing company out there published his original script into a comic book series, a 5-issue comic book series, I think. And I saw the images for that, and it is, whoa. Now I see why it was deemed unfilmable. Think Todd McFarlane's imagination times 10. It is disturbing. Not disturbing as in like emotionally scarring, disturbing as in ew, like because there's a lot of violence in Frank Miller's version of RoboCop. There are heads exploding a lot. There's just a lot of blood and gore, which Zazubaar doesn't like.
Oh, I don't. It's not that I don't like it. I just think I sometimes think it's not necessary.
Well, it's very unnecessary in RoboCop 2. I mean, they exaggerate way too much. It makes the first RoboCop look like the Teletubbies.
Oh God.
If they made Frank Miller's version of RoboCop 2, it would have been NC-17. That's how extreme it is. Oh. And it's too.
So it's basically porn.
Oh, go on.
It's basically porn.
Kinda. And speaking of porn, a lot of the women here have, they're like Michael Bay oriented, where they show off their cleavage a lot.
Aha.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna read it.
Oh God.
Nicola's just like, oh, you guys are such typical men.
But yeah. Even if Frank Miller's RoboCop 2 were to be made, it probably would have been a product worse than the final RoboCop 2, because the reviews for the comic book adaptation of RoboCop 2 were very, very negative. I'm not going to say exactly what reviewers said, because I don't want to ruin the surprise to anyone who's interested in reading it, but so far the reception has been very, very negative for Frank Miller's RoboCop 2.
I might just read it.
Yeah, I might read it just for the experience.
Right?
Because I really like RoboCop 2, the movie.
Read the script. Don't read the graphic novel. Read the script, because you have to imagine all these extreme things, because the comic book just gives it away. You have to imagine it.
Yeah.
So if you want the script, I'll send it to you, because I have it, and I haven't read it yet, ironically, but yeah, that's my loss and never produced.
All right. So awesome pick, dude. I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And guess what? I hate you because I was gonna do that one day. Because I was gonna. I know you did, you asshole. Now I'm glad you did it, because now I don't have to do it. I can pick something else. But maybe I'll do Frank Miller's RoboCop 3. Well, there is one. It hasn't been adapted into a graphic novel, but it does in fact exist. But interesting pick. I do want to read the script, so please do send it to me. So awesome. I'd actually like to go last. So Nicola, newbie, person who's never done this before.
Oh, great.
Take us away.
Okay. Well, I don't have as much information as Borzard was able to pick out, but the movie that I chose was the canceled Spider-Man 4. I have some information on it. So far, oh, by the way, funny enough, Black Cat? Yeah, that was supposed to be Anne Hathaway.
Oh, that is so weird.
Well, I can't say Black Cat, and this is actually one of the reasons why Spider-Man 4 never came into being. Sony wanted Black Cat, or Felicia Hardy, to be the Vultress, and to be the Vulture's daughter. And that caused a lot of disputes, as well as pushing Vulture to be the new editor of the Daily Bugle. Let me just list the cast members, because I actually thought that was kind of interesting. Dylan Baker's... Oh, they were also going to add the Lizard.
Really?
Yeah, from the reboot. And he was supposed to team up with the Vulture. And their Lizard would be Dylan Baker.
I do not know who that actor is.
You know what's weird is that I could have sworn that was the chemistry teacher in Spider-Man 2.
Oh, you mean... Oh, okay, Kirk Connors. So it was going to be the same actor that was in the other 3 movies.
Yeah, it would have been that guy.
Oh, okay. You said Dylan Baker. I was like, oh, is it not the same guy?
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, it's my fault. I didn't know the guy's name, so...
Okay, well... Yeah, he was going to be it. I don't know. I could never see him as that. personally.
He never played the Kurt Connors that I wanted to see.
Yeah,
He was always too aggressive for me.
He was kind of derpy looking to me.
He didn't have the figure for it, no.
They were gonna put John Malkovich as the Vulture. Yeah.
That is the most brilliant casting I've ever heard.
I know. There wasn't any script. I'm sorry. I never really looked into that, but from what the information that I gathered had, that the script was turned down immediately.
Was Kristen Dunst gonna reprise her role? Because I heard that she was just totally done with Spider-Man after Spider-Man 3.
From what I've read, she's still part of the cast.
Oh, okay.
Same with Tobey Maguire, who also expressed contempt for the fucking movies still. And
he seemed so relieved when they found that they were rebooting.
Right. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when news of Spider-Man 3 came out, they started interviewing Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, and they both in unison was like, I am not ready for this. I don't even want to do this. Do we really need a third one? Like, just expressing clear contempt for this movie was hysterical. But,
and they were ultimately right.
Right. Oh, okay. There was also this other character that they were going to add, but they never had a real actor for him. And I don't really know how this is going to tie in, since I don't really know much about this character, but he wanted to add Morbius the Living Vampire.
Why? Just because Felicia Hardy's in it? I mean, in the comics, that's he's a main villain of Spider-Man, but he's also a main villain of Blade. He's not a traditional vampire, but he was always Felicia Hardy's love interest. So I guess that's why, but you put him and the Lizard in the same movie, and that's really awkward.
And she's not Black Cat, she's the Vultress. I don't know if that's a legitimate character in the Spider-Man universe.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Okay. So that would just make things really weird. He also wanted to add the Sinister Six.
Oh! Who would be the Sinister Six, though? All the villains in the previous movies died.
Exactly.
Or turned good. Sandman.
Oh, I actually read some news right before we filmed this, that Spider-Man 4 was supposed to tie in with a Venom movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, you know how the Avengers would always add this little snippet at the end?
Yeah.
That would make people, like, hanging out their seats like, oh my god, we have one more piece of information connecting to the Avengers. That's what they were going to do, basically, with Venom at the end of Spider-Man 4.
But Venom fucking blew up. And the symbiote.
Yeah, I guess that's why it fell apart.
Yeah.
It was expected to release 2011.
Well, thank God it didn't. I do still want to see Venom in the reboot universe, but not for at least 2 movies.
And that's actually, wow, that was the exact pacing that they were going for.
What do you mean?
They were going to hint at him in Spider-Man 4, and Sam Raimi was still, like, gung-ho about a fucking Spider-Man 5, and he's like, okay, that's when we're going to give a little more information on him there.
They're going to do Spider-Man 5?
After Spider-Man 5, then Venom comes out.
So when the world ends, so when the world is done, Venom will be released.
Right. When, like, half the villains ever created in the Spider-Man realm are dead, Venom can come back.
No, he comes back as a fucking ghost.
Yeah.
Ghost Venom. And he fights Dan Aykroyd. Gorzard got that joke. Thank you.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters!
Oh, wow. But,
something strange. Oh, go on.
Yeah, that's all the information I had on Spider-Man 4.
Alright, well, another awesome pick. So I guess that only leaves me. I wanted to go to the end because I picked the most obvious thing, and I picked Darren Aronofsky's Batman Year One live-action film. This movie was, Gorzard brought it up earlier, and I wanted to strangle him for doing so. No, I'm kidding. He actually served as a decent segue. Darren Aronofsky was brought on to direct a Batman Year One movie in the year 2000. And it was right after Joel Schumacher was in talks with DC to produce a live-action version of Batman Year One. Because, quote-unquote, from him, he felt that he owed the hardcore Batman fans the Batman movie they would love me to give them. He hated Batman and Robin. I don't know if you guys know this, but he actually hated that movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he wasn't crazy about Batman Forever. The reason why those movies are so campy, and ultimately this is why people give him so much crap, is that he decided to be the studio's puppet and make a campy movie. Excuse me. And the thing was that he wanted to do a dark Batman movie. That's why he expressed interest in doing those movies, because he liked the dark character. And he wanted to do Year One. So he approached them about doing that, but the fact that he was so panned by Batman fans, they didn't want him to do it, so they kicked him off the project. But they stuck with this idea, and instead they brought on Darren Aronofsky, who was getting a lot of critical praise from his independent film work, and that's mostly what he's known for now, although he's starting to become more mainstream. But he was very indie back then. And they thought it would be good to give him such a gritty and realistic take on the character. So they teamed him up with Frank Miller, and they worked on a script together. And they thought that since Frank Miller's novel was so, I guess, impeccable is the way you'd say it, they wanted him to write the script so he would know what he needed to change for this to work on a movie. You know what I mean? Because Frank Miller was not only a filmmaker, he was also he was not just a comic writer, he was also a screenwriter. So he knew, what would need to be changed. So I thought it was a great move on them to do that, and also to have Aronofsky have his input. Apparently they got along very well, and the script is available online. I have not read it because I don't have the time, but I haven't read it, but it's available, and if I find it by the time I post this, I will post the link, but if I don't, sorry.
I'll send you the link, I know where it's at. Oh,
okay, epic. So the script is, in fact, from what I've read about it, is in fact very different from the actual novel itself, which I think is ultimately why the movie would have perhaps worked in a way that the animated film we reviewed doesn't in ways. In that Frank Miller tells a very different story. He tells them more about Bruce Wayne.
Oh, that's good.
And also one that's about Gordon, too. The thing with Year One is that when he wrote that story, he was only given 4 issues. And I think when he wrote the screenplay, he decided that he wanted to take the opportunity to expound on a lot of things he touched on in Year One. And I gotta give him all the props in the world for that. But some notable differences were that Bruce was going to be raised by a runner of a garage in Eastern Gotham named Big Al. And he was going to be raised by him, and he was going to work in his garage until he was around 16. And then he was going to go off and train to become Batman.
So wait, was Bruce Wayne ever rich?
Yeah.
Or?
But he kind of forgot about that and moved in with these people. It doesn't say why, but it's just that's what happened. And the reason why he's so obsessed with becoming a crime fighter is because he sees all these terrible people come in and out of the shop, fixing cars and threatening Al. So he wants to not only do it to revenge his parents, but also because he sees it on a day-to-day basis and understands the problem. So I like that about it. I also like, Gorzard will appreciate this, that he wears a crappier costume before he puts on the actual Batman suit. He puts on a hockey mask and a cloth cape.
Oh, wow.
And runs around with that for a few weeks, and then he actually makes the real Batman costume. It's the same way it is in the book. He sits down and sees a bat come through. But one other interesting change is that part of Bruce's character development is assuming the rich playboy attitude that he has throughout the entire novel, and that it doesn't happen until the end of the movie. In fact, Alfred's not even in any of this. He's just he shows up in the end as just kind of a butler, not really any character, which bothers me, but whatever. I don't think Frank Miller really has a good voice for Alfred anyway, so whatever. Some other interesting things that that aren't in Year One, the book, that are in the Frank Miller script, is that there was gonna be an early design for the Batmobile. We were gonna see Bruce put together all the gadgets, and there was gonna supposedly be more scenes between Commissioner Gordon, or Lieutenant Gordon as he's called in this, and Bruce Wayne Batman. So I would have appreciated that. The reason why I wish this was made is because I like Aronofsky as a director. I'm sorry, it's so late at night. I'm gonna tongue-tie my words more probably tonight. Darren Aronofsky. He's a fantastic director, and he's a really good. He knows where to put the camera for a really gritty movie. I know Nicola and I are both kind of sort of fans of Black Swan. And yeah, it's a fantastic film. And the reason why is because he shoots it like an indie movie, but with an epic feel. And I feel like that would suit this Batman Year One story. So one other interesting thing was that Aronofsky wanted the film to be inspired by 1970s crime dramas, like Taxi Driver, The French Connection, Serpico, and Death Wish. And he wanted to have an independent guerrilla flavor to it. So he wanted it to feel like an indie movie with a very gritty look, and that works great for Year One. If there was ever to be a live-action Batman Year One adaptation that's just basically the book and isn't something that just borrows from it like Batman Begins, then I feel like Aronofsky should be the guy, because he had such a great vision for this movie. Problems started to arise when Aronofsky and Miller said that the thing was going to have to be rated R. And the thing was that Warner Brothers was still in that mindset that a Batman movie needs to appeal to kids. So they came up with this wacky idea. We'll do two movies. One that's the dark, gritty, R-rated Aronofsky-Miller version, and it would be a really low-budget production. And then was going to be the big-budget fun fest that was going to be targeted at kids. And the studio looked at Aronofsky like he had two heads, and they just fired him. So that's basically it. So after that, Warner Brothers didn't give up though. They wanted to continue to develop the idea of doing a Batman Year One. And before I get away from Aronofsky, Darren Aronofsky didn't initially want to do Year One. Basically, one of the heads of Warner Brothers walked up to him one day and said, so we're thinking of revitalizing the Batman franchise. What would you do with a Batman movie? And he basically said, well, first of all, I'd cast Clint Eastwood as Batman.
Clint Eastwood?
Yeah. And I'd film it in Tokyo. Now, the reason why he said Clint Eastwood was that he was referring to doing a Dark Knight Returns adaptation where, Batman's an older guy. So I would love to see Clint Eastwood. I would love to see Clint Eastwood play that Batman. So I think that's a great move. And he wanted to film it in Tokyo and filling in for Gotham because he feels like Tokyo looks more like Gotham City in that story than any other city that they could actually film in. Because again, Aronofsky likes to film things on location and on a low budget. So I think that they wouldn't have been able to build a lot of sets that looked like a fake city. So I think it's brilliant that they wanted to film it in Tokyo. Ultimately, I wish this movie was made with Aronofsky as the director, because after they fired him, they went on to garner the aid of the Wachowski brothers, who you may know from directing The Matrix, and they wrote up a proposal and they actually went back to Aronofsky and said, can you do this proposal by the Wachowski brothers? And he laughed them off and quit. He thought it was a terrible pitch. Then, in 2002, a fellow you may know by the name of Joss Whedon pitched an origin story that he loved. He wrote his own version of Batman's origin. And as Joss Whedon has said, Warner Brothers stared at him like he was in a fishbowl.
Wow.
So they turned him down. And then in 2003, they started work on Batman Begins. So
yours was the most relevant.
well, that was kind of the point. So no, your guys was great. So I don't have a lot else to say about this except that Batman Begins is awesome. I'm ultimately glad that that's the thing we got. But I'd like to see like an indie flick, gritty working of or adaptation of Batman Year One. Still, I still think it could look awesome, and I think Aronofsky should direct the damn thing, because his vision for it is so great. So I don't.
Awards, didn't he?
Sorry.
He won awards with his film, like his direction and everything.
Oh yeah, he's won some stuff. So I don't know about any Oscars, but he's won awards before. Maybe some of our commenters can correct me on that, but I'm not sure. So he's been very praised before though, especially by critics. So that's really all I have to say about mine. I'd love to read the Frank Miller script. Gorzard, if you can get your hands on the link, definitely send it to me and I'll put it in the description. Also I'll do the same thing for the RoboCop 2 script. Excuse me. And I'll put those in the description if you're interested in downloading them and reading them. So that'll about do it for this edition of ZGC Monthly Reviews. I'd just like to deeply thank Nicola for joining us tonight. Thanks a lot for being here.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Epic. So maybe we'll have Nicola back someday. She was great. And next month, again, I'm not sure if Adam's going to be returning, but if he is, I doubt he's seen this movie, so it'll still work. So next month on ZGC Monthly Reviews in September, we shall be doing Versus, which is Gorzard, it's a Japanese film, correct?
Yep, from the same director of Godzilla Final Wars.
Ah, okay.
Just a heads up.
So we'll be doing Versus next month. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm Zazubaar.
I'm Gorzard.
I'm Nicola.
And we'll see you next time on ZGC Monthly Reviews.